So, hello everyone, and thank you, Professor Luo, for the introduction, as well as for the invitation to take part in this event. So, my speech will be a sort of the overview of how to improve your competitive programming skills. And we will start with the motivation, because that's the most important part. If you have a proper motivation, then of course you can work hard and you can spend a lot of time and your resources on your competitive programming skills. And then we'll continue with why would we ever need such a skill set and how it can be used in the real life. Okay. So I will start with my personal experience. So I actually started very late. It was a late second year of my study at the university when I participated for the first time in the programming competition. It was some sort of small regional contests for beginner teams. And my team managed to solve just 2 problems. It was something new for us, but nevertheless, I was so excited, and I found those problems and those competitive programming challenges so interesting that I decided to continue and to move forward and to develop my personal competitive programming skills, as well as work with my team to prepare and to participate in different sorts of competitions like ICPC. And then eventually in a few years, I managed to achieve a pretty good international results. We got a gold medal at ICPC Finals 2008, as Professor Luo mentioned, in Canada. And then it was the end of my career as a participant. However, I continued as a coach, and still I'm working at the university. I'm teaching computer science and math. Along with that, I do some coaching with local teams, and I'm still preparing them for regional competitions, for ICPC finals, for individual competitions, and so on and so on. Okay, let me then share the brief presentation on the topic of my speech. Just a second. Okay, can you see my slides? Professor
Yes.
Luo, could you
Yes.
kindly confirm? Okay, so
yeah.
that's okay. That's the topic of today's speech: how to improve your competitive programming skills. And the second slide connects us to the platforms and competitions related to my personal experience. So I started with ICPC. So like I said, during my second year at the university, I participated in the very first competition. So that was the beginning of my competitive programming. After that, I learned such platforms as Topcoder. I participated in Google CodeJam as well as Facebook Hacker Cup. Unfortunately, it was too late for me to participate in IOI, which is a great competition. However, I was working with a few students, and some of them, they managed to represent Ukraine at the international level, and we have 2 medals, a bronze medal and a silver medal for Lviv region at IOI finals. In the middle, there is a Topcoder. So I assume that some of you are familiar with such a platform. And Topcoder hosts a lot of different competitions. starting from algorithmic ones. They do this single round matches a few times a month. They also have marathons and development competitions, design competitions, and so on and so on. And what is interesting about Top Coder is that every year they have an on-site event which is called Top Coder Open. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus crisis, a few years in a row, those events are 100% online. However, at my time, when I was a contestant, it was a super exciting event for me. I was very thrilled, and I participated in online elimination rounds, and I was looking forward to reserve my slot at TCO finals and to participate. So in my experience, there were both algorithmic tracks and marathon tracks. And let me just cover some types of the competitions. How can we categorize like different events? So first of all, like I said, there are online and on-site events. Again, nowadays we have more online activities, and we used to have a lot of on-site before 2020. Also, we have, like I mentioned in my abstract, we have individual competitions and we have team competitions. Those are very different because for individual competitions, you just have to improve your personal skills. You have to learn how to do something, how to solve problems, how to implement solutions, and so on. And when you are working in a team, everything becomes a lot more complicated because you have to interconnect with your teammates. You have to find a way how to optimize your teamwork, team output, and how to become a real team, not just a bunch of individual participants. So, for example, ICPC is a most well-known competition event for collegiate teams. So, groups of three. I hope that all of you are familiar with that format. The groups of three members, participants forming a team. They take part in a competition, and they have just a single PC, a single computer, to solve and implement their solutions. Other than that, we have a pure algorithmic problems competitions like ICPC and IOI. So those are competitions where you have to solve problems which have perfect solutions provided by their authors. So before entering a competition, you are 100% sure that every problem has a decent, proper tested solution, which solves all the tests. So you either manage to solve the problem, it means to pass all the tests, or you fail it. And basically, the ranking is done by counting the problems which are solved by an individual participant or a team. Examples are Top Coder, algorithmic tracks, Google Code Jam competition, Facebook HackerCap, ICPC, and IOI competitions. So those are pure algorithmic contests. Alongside, we have optimization competitions. For example, Top Coder, they run their marathons. They call it marathon. And competing in that marathon faces you with probably a single problem, which is probably NP hard, and you cannot solve it perfectly. So here you are looking for some suboptimal solution. And there is a formula which scores, which scales, compares solutions to each other. And the one who provides the best suboptimal solution wins the competition. In most cases, such optimization contests, they are longer. For example, typical ICPC or IOI competition, it's 4 or 5 hours. Google CodeJam, Facebook Hacker Cup, 3-4 hours respectively. And marathons, top coder marathons, they could last like 12 hours, 24 hours, even a few days. I used to participate in on-site competitions, which are 24 hours or even longer, on-site and non-stop. So you have, let's say, 24 hours, and you have a set of problems, combine algorithmic and optimization problems. There are teams competing to each other. So you can solve problems, you can eat, you can sleep, you can rest, you can talk to your teammates, and it lasts for 24 hours, and it's also very, very exciting. So I guess that's everything related to the categories, how we can structure like the competitions and different events. And nowadays there are much more. There are like hundreds of different platforms, dozens or maybe even hundreds of different competitions, starting from such well-known as ICPC and IOI and up to some local events of like different types and different categories. And that's very, very good. The only drawback is that most of the events are online, though local events, some of them are switching back to on-site. And from my personal experience, I must admit that on-site events, they are much more exciting because you have a chance to talk to each other, to meet new people, to talk to the community if you are participating in the local competitions, or participants from other countries, and so on and so on. So let's move forward. The next slide, before we switch to the points described in the abstract, is the motivation. So like I mentioned in the very beginning, it's important to have a proper motivation. Why would I do competitive programming? So there are a few things I decided to highlight in my speech. First of all, it's fun. For me personally, it's fun. It's not for everyone, but if it's fun for you, that's a plus. That's a very good point. My second point is that competitive programming, it's a sort of brain gym for you. So perhaps some of you are doing workouts and exercises in the traditional physical gym. And that helps to keep your body in a good physical shape and a good physical condition. The same can be applied to your algorithmic mind. So if you solve problems from time to time, if you take part in the competitions at least, let's say, once a week, it might help you to keep your brain in a good algorithmic shape. Let me put it this way. Another point, it's sports. So some of you might be excited of taking part in different sport competitions, like traditional sports, let's say ping pong, soccer, basketball, volleyball, both individual sports and team sports. So basically, competitive programming is a sport. It's like a chess. So you're not moving your body too much, but you're loading your brain 100%. And there is a time pressure, there is a competition, and there is a challenge. So it's 100% sports. What I'm saying is that every one of you can choose their own motivation. It doesn't have to be sports. So not everyone is interested in being a sportsman. being like the almost professional sportsman. But some of you might. For some of you, it can be just fun or just a challenge. But for some of you, it can be sports. So I remember I was very motivated in that respect as a sportsman. So I decided to spend the whole season preparing my team to ICPC finals. And there was a period of few months where we had a practice session six times a week, like every day except Sunday. We had 5 hour long practice session with absolving afterwards. So it was like a professional sports. So except of nobody was paying us some salary for that activities. My next point is a challenge. Yeah, that's challenge. A lot of people, they like to solve puzzles. They like to think of some hard problems, something which is more challenging than an average task at the university or school. My next point is community. Community is something you can be part of when you take part in the local or international competition. When I traveled for the first time for such on-site events like Top Coder Open or Google Code Jam, I met a lot of exciting people, and we talked to each other till now. And that's like, you know, a very special group of people sharing the same hobby, the same vision of this competitive programming. So you can talk to them like how to solve problems, how do you improve your skills, and so on and so on. And that's something you might be missing from your local environment, like your school, your neighborhood, your family, and so on, if you are the only one doing competitive programming there. My next point is experience. So experience is also something you get in terms of quality and accuracy. So when you participate in competitive programming competitions, you learn how to move fast. You learn how to code in such a way that it minimizes your bugs and issues you put in your code. If you participate in team competitions, then you learn how to work with people. And that can be very helpful when you move to either academia or to the industry. And that's my last point here, is a career. So if you are a skilled competitive programmer, then it can be much easier for you to prepare for the interview. If you decide to try yourself in some big IT companies like Google or Facebook, the same examples as we had today. So having competitive programming experience helps a lot. So finalists from, let's say, Google Code Jam, they automatically were invited to the final stage of the whole interview process. So if you just apply for some developer position at the big company, so you have to do a series of interviews like one by one. But if you are a top 1% of competitive programmers in the world, then you get everything accepted automatically except of the last stage, and most likely a big company will provide you with an offer because you have a very good programming skill set from competitive programming. Okay, so the bottom line is that everyone decides what should be a proper motivation to do competitive programming. There are lots of directions. However, the main point is that you must have a motivation. If you have no motivation, then there is probably there is no sense to do competitive programming. Competitive programming is not for everyone. So the community is quite small, I would say. So out of 100 random people, there might be just a few feasible for competitive programming and capable and with the proper motivation. At the end of the day, your achievements, your results, they, from my personal experience, so they depend on your natural skills only by 10%. And 90% of your result, it's a hard work. It's a practice, a lot of problems solved, structured knowledge, trainings with your teammates, and so on and so on. It's a hard work. Like I said, it's almost a professional sport. So you have to get a proper motivation in order to get very, very top competitive programming skills. Okay, let's move forward. The first item in our abstract list is individual development plan. So when you have a proper motivation, you have to create your personal development plan. And the most important question is, what do you want to achieve? There are like lots of options, and they of course depend on your motivation. There might be, you see my second point is goals and dreams. There might be goals and dreams. For example, when I first started my participation in ICPC competitions, in a few weeks, I got a dream of participating in ICPC finals. And it was a dream for me because it was almost impossible for such a beginner who started very late. It was like almost third year of my university study. It was almost impossible for me. On the other hand, I had some goals, some reachable goals, like the next season I wanted to participate in the first regional competition, and I wanted my team to be in top 3. And it was quite doable in one season, and we were working good, working hard, and eventually we ended up on the top of the scoreboard in the regional competition. And that was another extra motivation for us to move forward and to prepare to the next stage of the ICPC, to the national competition. And then from the national competition, we moved to the regional ICPC semifinals. And with time, my dream has converted to the goal. So that's the message here. So you have to distinguish your dreams and your goals. It's good to have dreams, but you have to understand that we are moving forward step by step. Small step, not huge jumps, because if you want to achieve your dream exactly tomorrow, it might be bad in terms of motivation. Most likely you'll fail, and then you might decide that, well, it's too hard. Maybe competitive programming, it's not for me. And I would say it's the biggest problem for newcomers. In our local community, a lot of talented students. So they, like I said, talent, it's around 10% if you want to go internationally. And then a lot of talented students, they would like to become world champions the next season. But it's almost impossible. You have to work hard, and you have to spend a lot of time with your team and with problems and with algorithms. And only then you can transform your dream to your goal and achieve it. Then what might be, let's ask, what might be your goal? So one option is official competition results. Like in my case, your goal could be top 10 in your national competition or your province competition. It's a good goal, but you have to be realistic. Then virtual participation. So what you can do nowadays, we have lots of resources online. All the contests, including official competitions, they are available online. And you can actually participate virtually in that competition. And you can see how would you perform if you participated in that competition. But that's virtual. And that could be also your goal. Like I would like in a season or two with my team, we would like to virtually receive a medal at ICPC finals, something like that. That's a good example of the goal as well. Online contests and problem archives. So there are lots of online competitions, lots of online judges. We'll get back to them a few slides later. For example, top coder single round matches. So your goal could be, I would like to be in top 10 every second contest I take part in, or I would like to be in top 100 during few months in a row. Any goal like that is a good goal. Regarding problem archives, you might produce a goal like I would like to solve 5% or 10% of all the problems in this specific archive. That's a good for practicing and training. Then the last two points are very practically important. So by solving any problem, I mean that you would like to develop a skill of finding a solution to practically any competitive programming problem. Another question is how much time would you need to find a solution? When you face, let's say, some new sort of problem for a first time, or when you have to implement for the first time very complex algorithm, it might take a while, like even more than a contest, let's say 5 or 6 hours. But that's okay. That's for the very beginning, that's okay. The most important thing is that you have the ability to solve any competitive programming problem, to find a solution and to implement it with any reasonable time. That's a very practical and important skill you might have as a goal. And the last point is understanding problem solutions. That means that if you read some article, or if you have a teammate sharing a problem solution with you, you should have a skill of understanding what is described in the article, or what your team member is telling you. Yeah, so the bottom line of this slide is you need to have your personal development plan. This personal development plan depends on what you would like to achieve and what is your current motivation in competitive programming. Let's move forward then. When you have your development plan in place, you are working on your practice and training schedule. It's important to track how your performance improves. So that's the main question of this slide: how to track your improvements. It is a good idea to analyze. So if you are taking part in online competitions or virtual competitions, it's a good idea to analyze the same type of competitions and your results. So let's take top coder single round matches as an example. They host this CRMs almost every week. So if you participate in the competition every week, then you can check how many problems you manage to solve. What is your ranking in the scoreboard? Of course, it depends. Some competitions are successful, more successful for you, some less successful. But on average, so if you build a graph and if you track your performance, let's say for 6 months or a year, then on average, you have to feel the improvement. You have to see that you are now capable of solving on average, that's important, more problems. And on average, your ranking in top coder competition scoreboard improves. You're getting higher and higher. If this is not the case, then something is wrong. And you have to analyze your practice plan, your schedule. Maybe it has to be intensified, or maybe you are doing something wrong. We'll get back to this later as well. Next point is problem complexity levels. So typically in the online competitions, some platforms, they, let's say AdCoder, there is a Japanese platform called AdCoder. So they give you a problem set with, let's say, 5 or 6 problems. And problems, so the first problem is typically level 1, and it's the easiest. Then problem 2, a little bit harder, and so on and so on. So you can also keep track on your performance, taking some specific level of complexity. Let's say level 3. So it might happen that every competition, so you are solving first 2 levels, but you are having hard times with level 3. And it never happens, almost never happens, that you manage to solve level 4. It means that level 3 is should be a level of your interest. So try to keep track on how frequent you are getting the idea, the correct idea of the level 3 problem. How often you manage to implement a proper solution during a contest, how often right after the contest, and so on and so on. Try to understand what is your weak sides and improve them. Online judge platform ratings, I already mentioned that. So both Topcoder, AdCoder, and other platforms, they recalculate participant user rankings after every single online competition they host. And that's also a very good indicator. If your rating grows, then you are on the good way, on the proper way. If it grows faster, then you are practicing, you are improving better. It is important to notice here that sometimes it might happen that you feel no improvement. And on the other hand, sometimes it might happen that your improvement is very fast. So let's say at some point you switch from level 3 to level 4. And it happens almost immediately. For some reason, it happens. It happened to me, to my students, to my teammates, and that's okay. And you have to take this into account. So if you feel that there is no progress, just give it some time. Keep practicing, keep participation in competition, and someday you might just see that your level of interest just switched from 3 to 4. Practice mode notes. That's also very helpful and important practice. It means that if you are solving problems not during real competitions, but just for practice, try to put some timeline notes. By timeline notes, I mean if I take some problem of the proper level, if my proper level of my interest is level 3, then I take some random level 3 problem. And while solving this problem, I put some notes on how I do it. For example, timestamp, I started reading a problem statement. The next timestamp, let's say 5 minutes after that, I understood the problem statement and I started checking the sample tests. Then 15 minutes after the beginning, I managed to come up with the straightforward solution. 25 minutes after I started, I finally found the solution which should be working. Then I started my implementation. 40 minutes after the beginning, I implemented my solution. It failed on sample tests. Minute 55, I found some bugs. I fixed them and I submitted the solution. It got time limit exceeded. Then 1 hour and 5 minutes after the beginning, I understood how to optimize my solution to fit into time limit. 1 hour and 50 minutes, I managed to rewrite my solution or make changes to my implementation. I submitted and I got accepted. So such notes, they might help you to analyze. They might help you to look for your weak sides. And if you take a look at the process of problem solving, then these notes they will help you to highlight what parts of the problem solving process could be optimized. Then idea search and implementation times, that's what you should include in your practice mode notes. So try to understand what takes longer. If you are looking for the idea too long, let's say more than 30 minutes, then this is the place where you have to improve your skills. If your implementation is very long and faulty, you have lots of bugs, or if you are copy pasting a lot, then the implementation part should be improved as well. Accuracy and wrong submission rates. Keep track on how many times you submit a wrong solution and try to understand what was the reason. Try to be as accurate as possible. That's one of the skills the industry and academia very appreciate. Okay, so that's performance tracking slide. Let's move forward. Knowledge structure. So your algorithms and data structure of course has to be structured. The better structure you have in your mind, the easier you find solutions to different problems during competitions. See point number 2, reduce and combine. Basically, in competitive programming, it's very rare that we have something new. Almost every problem you get during the competition, it's just a combination of well-known ideas, of well-known algorithms and data structures. So if you're capable to reduce the hard, complex problem to some smaller, well-known problems, and then combine standard algorithms and their standard implementation, then that's the ideal case for you. So a good indicator of your improvement is if you are using standard tools. So if you are solving a problem and if you figure out some exotic algorithm, most likely something is wrong. You haven't done your reduction properly. So most likely this complex algorithm, it can be just presented as a combination of typical algorithms. For example, let's build a suffix automaton, and then on the tree we get, let's push some flows and get the solution for the problem. So that might be an example of how we combine like different standard tools, data structures, and algorithms. Also, if you invent your own complex algorithm you have never implemented, the probability that there will be a bug in your implementation grows drastically. So a good practice is to use a standard implementation for every standard algorithm and tool. So C.4, choose your implementation. Let's say maximum flow in the network. So that's very standard and typical problem. All of you know how to solve. However, there are different algorithms and different implementation for every algorithm. Well, for example, let's consider a Dinitz algorithm. So you can use different flavors in the implementation of Dinitz algorithm. So that's why you have to choose your own implementation and try to use the very same implementation every time. Because if you implement the same algorithm 100 times, the probability of having some bug in your code reduces to almost zero. And if you decide to implement something totally new from scratch, most likely you will have issues. And during competitions, especially short competitions like ICPC, you have no time for the failure if you would like to be on the top. How to choose your implementation? Figure out your own one. Check solutions of your teammates, your peers, other teams. Solutions published within analysis on some blogs or as an examples. Try to understand how they work and choose the one you believe is the most efficient in terms of implementation and then modifications. Point 5 is avoid copy paste. So it's often happens that contestants, they implement something once and then they copy it every time. It works if you have to be very fast during the competition. For example, it's the top coder open elimination final round, and you have to be in top 10 to get your slot reserved. And of course, if something like min cost max flow has to be implemented, copy paste helps. However, during the practice, it's a good idea to retype every time your algorithm, just in order to polish your implementation. Keep in mind, during ICPC finals, you will have your team reference printed on your team table. However, you will have to re-implement every algorithm every first time you use it during the finals. So that's why it's important to practice this implementation typing every time during practice sessions. Keep that in mind. Another point why you should type the implementation during trainings is that sometimes algorithms and data structures has to be modified for some particular problem. And in order to do these modifications, you have to understand how this data structure or algorithm works in the very details. Because if you just copy it, and you have no idea how to modify it for this problem, then it might be an issue for you, because the last 20 times you were just copy pasting, and you are slightly forgetting how this particular algorithm works. Okay, bottom line is that algorithms and data structures has to be properly typed and categorized. You have to know, for example, I'm not going to iterate over every particular problem type and algorithm type, because we have some limited type. Just take an example, some short pass algorithm or spanning tree algorithm. You have to know what are the choices. What are the choices of algorithms and data structure to find the shortest path or to build a spanning tree on your graph? And then what are the available implementation? And what is your typical, what is your favorite implementation? And you have to be capable of typing this implementation with your eyes closed. Okay, the next slide relates to how to search for a problem solution. So it often happens that we have a problem, and students, they have hard times of looking for a solution. They fail to solve this problem during a contest, and even after the contest, they have no idea how to solve this solution. So you have to work on your solution search skill by practicing, by solving more problems. Well, and that's why we are getting back to the previous slide. That's why you need these types and categories. So every time you have a problem, try to recall what similar problems you were solving recently or lately. What algorithms, what approaches have we used for the problems similar to this one? Read problem statement carefully. It's a shame when you try to be hurry and then you read the problem diagonally and you skip some very important things from the problem statement, and then at the end of the day you are solving totally different problem, perhaps a way harder than the one you are expected to solve. So read carefully, understand, build the model, mathematical or physical model for the problem, check the constraints and limitations. This is a very important, because if the constraints are small, then perhaps some brute force, some simulation algorithms, they might work. So do not try to apply the most complex algorithm from your tools. Your goal, when you are solving a problem, your goal is to solve the problem, not to solve it with the fastest solution. So it doesn't matter. You just have to fit into the time limit. Partial cases and samples. If there are no ideas how to solve the problem, try to make it simpler. Try to simplify it by considering some partial cases. Consider smaller limitations or constraints. Walk samples step by step. Understand what could be a strategy or solution for a particular sample. Maybe that would be a good hint for you how to find a solution. Start with a straightforward approach. That's what I advise every time. So when you are solving a problem, it's also a motivation. It's also very important. So when there is no solution, when there is no idea, it's sort of disappointing. And when you have a very slow solution, but it works, it's a sort of step forward. So you know how to solve this problem. probably with a time limit solution, but you have a solution. And we can call it a base solution. And you can use this base solution later when there might be some issues with your more optimal solution. Try to optimize the complexity. It might happen that a time limit solution can be simply optimized and you can actually fit it in the time limit by using some standard techniques and tools. Let's say by using dynamic programming optimizations. It's also a case. My final point is make a guess. So basically in the world of competitive programming, the set of tools we previously mentioned, like standard algorithms and standard data structures, it's quite limited. So you can just make a brainstorming and you can try to understand if I can apply this algorithm to this problem. And it's often the case when you're just guessing and then, well, this guess, it might actually work. So I just guessed, and then you decide how to technically apply the algorithm or data structure to the solution for this problem. Okay, then app solving and bug fixing. So in my abstract, I highlighted that app solving is the most important stage of your improvement, of your trainings and practicing. So app solving is the process of finishing the problem after the contest. In order to improve, you have to learn how to solve those problems you haven't managed to solve during the contest. So don't be hurried. Try to solve the problem after the competition. I already mentioned the story where my team and we spent 5 hours on a virtual competition. And then after the virtual competition, we had another few hours of app solving. We tried to solve those problems, to finish those problems we didn't manage during the contest. And then we discussed the ideas. We continue tomorrow. The bottom line is just to spend more time. Do not give up right after the contest is over. I understand that it might be very interesting for you, and it might be very hard to wait before you share your ideas, before you ask other teams, your peers, how to solve this problem, before you read the editorial. But in order to improve, in order to work on your competitive programming skills, don't be hurried. Give it some time, and it would be much more productive if you finish the problem yourself. Of course, there is some reasonable limit. If after a day or two, you still have no ideas, even after checking samples, corner cases, brainstorming, guessing the algorithm, and so on, even if you write multiple solutions, if you compare their output. So this gets back to the previous slide where we have a straightforward solution. So it might happen that your idea is actually correct, but your implementation is wrong. Then you can do some testing, some stress testing. You can generate random or specific tests and run your straightforward solution and your current solution on this generated tests, and then find the case where your current solution is wrong. That's also often the case. So if after a few days it still doesn't work, then there is no other option as to check what others do. Let's see the code of other contestants. That's level 1. So if you are reading a code, try to guess what ideas, what approaches, what algorithms were used by those contestants who successfully managed to solve problems. Read more than one. It often happens that you stick to just one favorite contestant, to your favorite top performance, but it's useful to read more than one solution. Read like different programming languages, different approaches. You might wonder that you find a very neat implementation of well-known algorithm, and maybe with time you'll use this neat implementation for your own solutions. Yeah, and then the final stage is reading the editorial. So nowadays, almost every competitions, they provide official editorial, either as a document, so you could read reference solutions, and sometimes even video editorials where you can see the problem setters, and they during this video, they explain what ideas, what were the primary ideas and primary solutions. Good. So we are a bit out of schedule, as I see, so I'll try to be brief for the next slides. So the references. Students often ask where and what to read and watch. So today, the picture is totally different than it used to be when I was a contestant. So when I began, almost every problem online had no analysis. We had to figure out how to solve the problem ourselves. Sometimes we also had some buggy problems, buggy tests, and that was quite terrible. It wasn't as easy and as useful as it is now. Nowadays, you have lots of sources. First of all, check official contest materials, videos, and analysis, like I said. Check top contestant streams. A lot of top performers, they used to stream how they participate in the competition. It's nice to check some of them from time to time, and they might be a good example for you of the process of getting the idea and implementing it. Blogs and discussions. After the contest, there are lots of discussions where people are sharing their ideas, their implementation, discuss primary solutions and alternative ways how to solve problems. Read code and make challenges. So it's also a very important skill I haven't mentioned yet. In many platforms, you have the ability to challenge the solution. So after the coding phase, there is a challenge phase, so you can read other codes, and if you feel that this solution is wrong, then you can suggest a counter sample which should fail this solution. So after the competition, it's a good idea to read at least a few during the challenge phase, and then a few after the competition is over. Then there are lots of books which are related to the theory of algorithms and data structure. Just to provide you some example of the generic theory reference, a well-known introduction to algorithms by Thomas Corman. Or, for example, if we take some specific theory, let's say game theory, so that there are problems related to the game theory, so that gets us back to the classification. So if you see that this is a game theory problem, you might wish to read the game theory, but by Thomas Ferguson. That's just one of the examples of such a specific theory references. Yeah, the bottom line is that there are lots of resources, and luckily nowadays, if you have a proper motivation and proper goals, you'll find more than enough references in the internet to work with. The same relates to online judge platforms. So where to solve platforms? Where to solve problems. So there are lots of platforms. And first of all, we have to get back to our goals. It depends on what are your goals and what are you preparing for. If, for example, your goal is to prepare for some regional competition, then you have to take, regional ICPC competition or regional IOI competition. Then you have to take into account specifics of those competitions, the trends and the specifics. For example, in IOI competition, for IOI competition, there is a guidebook for problem setters. And this guidebook, it covers the types of the problems that could be suggested for IOI. So again, not all problems you can encounter during IOI. So which means that not all types of problems you have to work with. You have to train yourself of solving. The same relates to regional ICPC competitions. So for some competitions, there are, some popular algorithms or popular ideas that problem setters are using. That's why it makes sense to do emphasize on this specific types of problems and trends and data structures. It's a good idea to use if your regional competition has its own regional online judge. It makes sense to use this online judge if you prepare to the regional competition. If you are preparing for the ICPC finals, of course, my advice would be to use CATIS, which is an official ICPC judge system, and to virtually solve problems from previous competitions. So it's like the best practice. If you want to prepare for ICPC 2022, solve problems from ICPC 2021, 2020, and back and back. Then it's my point number 3: select proper problems for your practice. That's what I mean. That you have to gain experience on problems that are most likely in the problem set you are preparing for. Point number 4: quality over quantity. So nowadays, those online judge archives, they contain hundreds or maybe even tens of hundreds of problems. And you can be just solving another 100 of problems and another 100 of problems, but that's not your goal. So your task is to improve your skills, not to solve yet another 100 of typical or easy problems. So keep track on quality. Try to make your practice as close to the real competition as possible. Okay, then virtual judge platforms. So there is a platform probably you're familiar with called Virtual Judge or VJudge. And then you can use this platform for your trainings, and you can combine problems from different platforms. Yeah, and that might just give you the same flavor, the same user interface, and you can easily switch from preparation, let's say, from individual competition to team competition. And then local platforms. For example, AlgoTester. It's a local platform I developed myself. At some point, it is important to support local communities, and those local platforms, they exist to give local flavor to the local community. It's often in a native language. Let's say AlgoTester, most problems are in Ukrainian because very young students from middle or primary school, they don't speak English at all, or they have very basic English. So that's why it's hard for them to use some global platforms. And also they require some basic level problems in bigger numbers. So that's why it's important to support and develop local communities and local platforms. And if some beginners ask for for the advice. My advice would be to start with some local judges, local platforms, and then to extend your experience with some global ones like Cadis. Okay, then another 5 minutes, and then we'll switch to questions and answers. Teamwork. So everything we've discussed before relates to basically individual skills. However, if you prepare for ICPC, it's a team competition, and a team competition means that you have to work with other team members, and this becomes much more complicated, as I stated in the abstract, because if we simply take 3 extremely strong individual participants, it doesn't mean they would work as a team properly. It doesn't mean that their team performance would be of the same high level, because there are lots of aspects, as in every team sport, as in football, as in basketball, as in tennis. If there is a team, you have to agree how this team should act as a team, but not as a group of individuals. So not everyone is a good team player, but you can learn. So one of the biggest issues in a teams of strong individuals is that everyone would like to be a leader. Everyone would like to solve a problem. So it means that an individual participant, he wants to contribute to the team output as much as possible. And then we have this conflict. If all 3 members, they would like to contribute more. If there is a problem and everyone would like to implement a solution for. So it might even happen that team members, they fight during some trainings or even real competitions. That's something you have to, as the individual participant, you have to learn how to work as a team player, but not as individual participant. So it's important to build a strong internal team communication. It's important to understand how to listen and how to explain something to your team members. It's a good practice to be a part of multiple teams. Try how is it? Feel it. Try to participate in some team competitions with other guys, and maybe it's the optimal team for you. Despite those other 2 guys, they have their online rating is less than your current team. So just do some experiments and find your optimal team. Learn how to describe the problem to your teammates. If you read the problem and if you understood, so what is this problem about and what is the model, mathematical model of this problem, it's the next step to explain this everything to your teammates. It often happens that it's the big issue. It's the big issue because students, they have no experience of talking to other, explaining problem statement, problem solution to other guys. Read the code of your teammates. At the very beginning, you might feel that their code is just terrible and your code is perfect, but nothing is perfect, as well as your code. And together with your teammates, you have to find the common style and common way of writing the code. You have to learn how to explain everything to your teammates and how to read the code of others very fast. and how to find the issues, the bugs in their code, and how to delegate your code to your teammates. Solve together, not individually. It means that if you read the problem and if it's not super easy, discuss while somebody else is typing the solution of the problem. Discuss the next idea with another teammate. Maybe they will come up with some idea how this can be done even better, or how to optimize your idea, or how to solve some parts you haven't done yet. Successful teams versus successful individuals, that's what I've started from. So you have to act as a team, not as just a group of successful individuals. You have to talk to each other, you have to communicate, and you have to optimize your team output, your team performance. Team roles. So that's a very popular question. So what are team roles, and do we need them at all? So there might be roles by problem types. For example, there might be someone in your team who is very good with game theory problems. So someone who has read a lot of books, who has solved a lot of game theory problems, and who is, let's say, expert in game theory problems. And then what happens? Your team strategy could be like, when I read a problem and when I understand this is the problem related to game theory, I immediately transfer this problem to the game theory expert guy. And this can be also applied to other problem types like graph or network flows expert, and so on and so on. Roles by implementations and testing. So there might be an expert in implementing some complex algorithms. For example, some geometry, complex geometry structures. Let's take, for instance, Voronoi diagram, which is a complex structure and which might require some reasonable time. There might be a guy in your team who has implemented dozens of times this diagram algorithm, and even if you come up with the problem solution idea together as a team, then you just transfer the implementation to the expert guy. However, there must be a backup. There must be a backup because it often happens that during a contest, something could go wrong for one of you. So the bad mood, not my day. Something is wrong. I cannot handle the tension during a real life competition, and so on and so on. And if you see that that this is not your day and you are responsible for the implementation of some complex algorithm, then it might be a good idea just to use a member backup who is responsible for the implementation or the problems, in case if it's not your day. Find each other's strong sides. That's what I'm saying. Everyone should feel comfortable with its roles and their responsibilities. I saw some teams where there were guys purely connected to math and physics and no implementation. So imagine that in your team there is a super strong mathematician or physician, and they can build any complex model, and they can understand how to apply the algorithm as a solution, but they never implemented it. So it might be a case only 2 out of 3 has something to do with the implementation, and one of the guys just do math and physics. And also there are decision-making roles. So it's especially important during real competitions. sometimes a team has to decide what to do. If you see that your resources are limited and you can only, let's say, solve 2 problems and you have 3 ideas, now we have to decide which 2 out of 3 problems to implement. And there must be someone responsible for such hard and important decisions. And my last point is universal team player. So what I'm saying, it doesn't mean that your team needs to use some sort of role. You can work as the universal players, universal soldiers. Everyone from the team could be capable of implementing or solving any problem. So that's also often the case. And then the question is how to decide whether we use team roles or not. And the answer is you have to do experiments. During training sessions and practice sessions, try to use different roles. Try to switch roles. Try not to use roles at all. And then see which configuration works better in your case, in your team. So that's very, very individual for every team. So just give it a try, do some experiments and check what's the best in terms of the output. And my last slide is the team leadership. It goes to the coach and the captain. So if it comes to your individual skills, then it's okay to work yourself and to prepare the plan and follow the plan, improve your skill and track performance. But if it comes to the team, it's important that there is a coach and the captain working with a team. For some teams, let's say in my university, we have teams with multiple coaches. And there are even coach roles. So every coach is responsible for some specific area. And coaches together with team captains, so they have to come up with a team tactics and strategy. So we already touched some strategy, and there is also a point which says there should be a team participation protocol. So there must be a very clear and strict understanding on how our team behaves in different situations. There must be no fighting, just a strict protocol, and every team member follows the protocol according to the roles. If we do that, it will help us to avoid any stresses, any tensions, any pressures, and any misunderstandings during real competitions and cases where we have to output the best. So coach contribution during practice and during the contest. So the coach has nothing to help with during the contest, but during the practice, coaches can watch the team acting and performing, and they can do some notes, and then after the practice session they can analyze and advise how to improve some team aspects. There have to be a minimum and expected contest goals. So this also relates to the goals. So as a team, you also have to understand what is the goal. So if we have this preparation, then what is our goal? What is the minimum result, and what is the expected result? The special emphasis is put on maximize team output during last hour. We also had an example. During last hour, it's very critical to maximize the output. So if you have, let's say, 3 problems with ideas, and you have just one computer, so if you try to implement all three problems, it might happen that you succeed with none of them. And that's the worst case. So you have to see if your plan minimum is to solve one of them, then let's first of all concentrate on plan minimum. And then if you succeed, then let's switch to the expected result. And if the expected result is two problems, then all the team has to work on the expected result. And only after the expected result, we can go above. So that has to be specified in the team participation protocol, and that's something coaches and captains has to do with. Suggestions and captain decisions, it's also is included in the protocol. It means that all the team members, they are free to suggest how to move forward, what to solve, in what order, and so on and so on. However, the final decisions have to be made by the captain according to the protocol. Good. So thank you very much for your attention. So it's been more than I expected. It's a quite wide topic, as you see. So this speech was quite abstract, though I hope it was somewhat helpful to you. Feel free to share your questions right now, and I'll cover some of them according to our timeline. And if there will be some more questions I won't be able to cover right now, I'll be glad to provide some written answers via Professor Luo. Okay, so let me check the chat.
Thanks, Vasyl. So I also collected the questions from the audience, and then I think there's a question asking that whether should we master maths with computer science together for the first second year college students, or even for younger students.
Could you please repeat? So
so there's an audience asks, do you think we need learn maths with computer science together?
If I understood it correct, so the question is, should we form a team during the first or the second year of the university, right?
No. I mean the major. So most students may be in the computer science major, and then some ask whether we should learn math together with computer science.
Okay, so that's the interesting question. So my answer would be yes. So yes. As soon as possible. Let me put it this way. However, again, I'll repeat myself. It depends on your goals and on your motivation. So if you decided to take this track, and if you feel this drives you and this is challenging for you, and you would like to take part in this journey, then start as soon as possible. I also mentioned my personal experience, and unfortunately, I started very, very late. It would be. I also dreamt it would be very nice if I started competitive programming in my high school, and if I formed my ICPC team in a high school as well, but it was not the case. Okay, so the answer is yes, and as soon as possible.
Okay, yeah. So that's the first question I collect, and then the second question is about I think you should also read the questions in the chat box. One is that using timestamp, how to improve statement reading. There's one question.
Okay, so I'm okay. So in the chat, I'm seeing some questions as well. Okay, so how to improve problem statement reading? Like I mentioned, you have to read problem statement carefully. The biggest issue is that one is trying to save few seconds while reading the problem statement. And the worst scenario is that your understanding of the problem could be wrong at the end of the day. So if you read it very, very fast, if you omit some paragraphs, and then if your understanding is wrong, then probably the problem you will be going to solve is different as well. So that will lead us to just a waste of time. So this few seconds you could save by reading the problem very, very fast could lead to the drastic time losses during the competition. So that's why the first recommendation is read the problem carefully. Make sure that you understood it correct. Check that your understanding of the problem corresponds to the sample tests provided in the problem description. Almost every time there is one or a few examples, samples. Make sure that the way how you understood the problem corresponds to the tests. Draw some images, play with numbers. Be sure that your understanding is correct. Yeah. It might happen during the competition if you are in a team and if there is a problem with being solved by other teams and your team has no idea how to solve this problem. This is an indicator that problem statement was understood incorrectly. Then what your team has to do is to give the problem description to some other participant and let your team member reads it as well. And then you check if you understood it the same way. Yeah, so I hope this covers the question. Okay, let me see. Let me see the other questions. How to use accuracy and wrong submission rates to improve the practice procedure. Okay, so accuracy and wrong submission rate relates to performance tracking. So these are just indicators to you how you improve your accuracy skill. For example, one of the indicators is the number of wrong submission per every solved problem. For example, 0.5 could be your wrong submission rate. It means that for every problem you successfully solve, there is 0.5 unsuccessful submission. And if this indicator drops down, this means that your accuracy grows up and vice versa. So you have to use this indicator to see if this wrong submission is your pain point. If your wrong submission rate is very high, for example, more than 2, something has to be done. More than 2 means that every successful submission comes with at least 2 wrong submissions. It means that you are submitting too fast. It means that before submission, you have to read your code again. It's a good practice. So you finished your implementation, then you check sample test cases. If everything is okay, probably you submit. But maybe it's too early. Maybe it's too early, and you have to spend another minute reading your solution. It depends on the size of your implementation. If it's short, then maybe 15, 20 seconds. If it's long, then minute, 2 minutes. Just read it, and during this check, maybe you'll find some bugs or some issues with your code. Another idea, if you are in a team, you can give your solution to your teammate for the check, and they will read your solution instead. Typically, this is done by the one who discussed the idea with you. So for more complex problems, the idea is discussed by at least 2 team members, and then one of them implements the solution, and another one could be involved in checking the code. So such procedures, they allow to increase your accuracy and decrease your wrong submission rate. Then if this does not help you to reach the proper accuracy, then you can do some testing, additional testing. This means that some extra tests alongside with the sample tests has to be used for testing. Corner test cases, max test cases, and so on. They can be either generated, or if they are short, simply you can put down them on the paper, and then your task is to check your solution on those extra tests. Extra testing allows to increase accuracy as well. Probably you know that during ICPC competitions, wrong submissions, they give you a penalty. So if you have a large penalty, then it decides your final ranking. So good accuracy leads to better ranking in the group of teams who solve the same number of problems. Okay. What kind of a long-term training plan should be started with a primary scenario in a university? Okay, then that's a very good question. So I was working with teams that had plans for 3 or 4 years in advance. That's a very serious plan. That means if you want to win an ICPC medal, or if you want to be a top 1 in the ICPC competition, something like that. For such plans, you need a long term, and a long term has to be, if it's like few years of a plan, it has to be divided into smaller steps. Like I also mentioned in the beginning, you have to move step by step. So you have to start with your regional competition, with your province competition, then your national competition, then ICPC regional, and so on and so on. You have to move forward steps by steps. And during every step, there must be some particular goals. And every step should include particular team goals in terms of the improvements. On every phase, coaches, together with the team, they have to understand what is the the biggest pain point in a team? So what is the biggest drawback? What types of algorithms? What types of problems? What team tactics or strategy can be improved in order to gain the most output at the end of the day? So when this is improved, we have to switch to the particular training plan. So for example, we have a set of problem types we are improving individually, as well as we have a certain types of contests we are training with a team using a specific strategy. As an example, let's see a national competition. So you are preparing for a national competition. This means that our trainings, they are based on the previous national problem sets. And then there must be some analysis, weekly based, let's say, together with coaches, and based on the performance tracking, this analysis should provide some indicators whether the current phase is over. So let's say if these types of problems are already not an issue for us, so our team is good with these problems, then we can move to the next phase, and we can work with some more complex problems or some other types of contests or ideas. Okay. During the timeline notes, you mentioned some.
Yeah, I think this question is about your slide. He also asked whether we can share the list that you present in your slides.
I can actually I can actually share the slides with Professor Luo, and then he will forward the slides to the rest of you guys. Okay, then it seems to be everything. Thank you very much.
There's one more question, I think. The second to the last.
Okay. The one from the top. How to avoid chaos, mind chaos, sometimes facing a complex problem. What could be a solution? So yeah, that's actually a very important aspect, especially in team competition. You have to understand how to handle attention, the pressure, the time pressure during the competition, how to manage the case where you cannot find a solution for a problem and the clock is ticking. The answer is it comes with your experience. So there is no other way of managing the mind pressure, mind chaos during the real competitions, other than taking part in the real competition. So of course, you have to move with small steps. During the competition, you have to keep track on the scoreboard. You have to understand what others do. If some problem was already opened, was solved by other teams or other participants, then it's a hint for you that this problem is probably easy one, and probably you can solve it. It's important to solve problems starting from easy ones to harder ones. Every time when you successfully solve the problem, when you get a positive verdict, when you get accepted, verdict from the judge, it's a relief for you. it helps you to move forward. It helps you to get rid, at least from some part of this contest pressure. So that's why do not stick. If you are stuck on some problem, it might be a big issue for you. So just take a breath, switch to some other problem, especially easy one. So just check the scoreboard, find the easy problem, and solve easy problem, and then solve another easy problem, and then get back to the problem you started from. This helps. This helps, and if you compete with the team, it's also a part of the strategy. Team captain is often responsible for cheering up the team and to keep an eye on his teammates, and if necessary, just to say something in order to help to fight the pressure and to increase the motivation. Okay. How much time to spend on ACM training for a team aiming at the medal? How do you weigh the trainings over regular core courses? Okay, like I said, if you want to achieve, if you want to get the ICPC medal, then you have to train a lot. You have to work very, very hard. For my personal case, for a few months, we put everything on hold, including our regular university courses. Well, we only did some essential. It was a winter break, a few months, and then after that, we only did the essential assignments for our university courses, and we spent around 8 hours, 6 days a week on trainings. If your goal is to participate and get a good result in some local competition, it can be totally different. It can be just 2 trainings a week during a few months, and that might be enough, provided that team members are talented. So it's very different. But if you speak about the ICPC medal, it's a huge work. You have to be ready. It's almost a professional sport.
Yeah, I think that's all the question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap it up. We are almost 20 minutes behind the schedule. So thank you very much for your attention, for your participation. Thank you, Professor Luo, for the invitation and the chance to take part in this event, and for managing this speech for me. So I hope this was helpful to all of you guys, that you can get some ideas from my experience and my advices. And again, should you have any further questions or comments, feel free to contact me via Professor Luo. Have a nice day then. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.